I think we're going live, preparing to live stream the meet.
Yeah, I see the red button. This is a fun topic. I feel like we've talked a little bit about social media stuff before, not nearly as much about video calling. And, there you go. How was your weekend? What'd you do?
What did I do this weekend? I don't remember. Oh, I did a lot of work at my brother's place. Picked up a couple of really nice cast iron skillets.
Nice.
An online auction, so that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Very structured pickups for an online auction right now.
Oh, okay. Well, it makes sense.
Yep.
I virtually looked at cars for Alex, found some good contenders. So
nice. What are you contemplating?
Potentially a Nissan Sentra
Ooh.
SV.
Ooh.
So there's a lot of really good deals right now on cars, which is fortunate for us. And yeah, deals right now. I think because car dealerships are probably hurting like most industries. So
yeah, I don't know.
and then there's also like a Mazda that we're looking at too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we got two watchers. Somebody's up. Maybe
one of them. I think it's both of us because I have
it. It could be the two of us. We're watching ourselves. That's all right.
Yeah. Okay, now we have three.
But it's probably Becky.
Probably.
Or Lisa.
I was just gonna say my.
Come on, we're shooting for 4.
Yeah. My Rochester book club, we did a Zoom virtual meeting yesterday. That's a book club where we don't actually read everything. We just sort of share what we've been reading and catch up and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was fun because we did like a virtual scavenger hunt as well as part of the meeting. So like there'd be a prompt like what's like your dream reading nook? And then we found like Google images, and then we shared our screens and we explained like why. So that was cute. Did that yesterday.
Did dream reading nook look like?
Huh? What's my dream reading nook? So I like to lay down when I read. I don't really like sitting. So I wanted to I found a cozy room that had like a thick plush blanket that looked like it had a comfy bed, but it also had like one of those sitting hammocks. So you lounge but sit in it. It also had like a plush carpet. Nice. So depending on where I want to like read, whether it's the bed or the hammock or the floor. It's just like a leftover habit from being a kid because my parents had wall-to-wall carpeting, basically.
Yeah. So you'd lay on the plush carpet and read books? Yes. Nice.
And I would do like homework on the floor as a kid and everything. And so can't really do that in my apartment with hardwood.
Time to get a plushy area rug.
Yeah, it's not plushy, the one that I have. I do like my area rug, it's just not plush. It's okay. And then I made a good crock pot meal.
Well, I remember something I'm proud of this weekend that I did. Well, this weekend / this morning because I stood up this morning. So I was helping this guy sold his house and a lot of stuff. And he had this cabinet that wasn't for sale. Supposed to be going to someone, a family member, and so he contacted me recently and said, "Hey, I sold my house, and the family member no longer has room for this or doesn't want it. Will you buy it?" And I whatever. So I did. I bought it and went and picked it up, and it has 3 doors, and they all have these locks that take an old skeleton key.
Oh. Okay.
And so he didn't have the key for them. So I found an old skeleton key that was about the right size, or the right style rather. And so yesterday and this morning, I worked to sort of make a key for these locks. And so actually early this morning, I taught myself how to braze, found some brazing rod that I had around, and I was able to braze this key and make it work in the lock. So
that's cool.
Pretty nifty. Yeah.
You think you can do that for any key?
So I've made, like, I love the challenge of that. You know, I have before taken locks apart and, you know, played with them until I could make the key. Some locks are, this lock was pretty easy actually, because I just needed like a flat piece that would, you know, swing the tumbler back and forth. But I did a jewelry, like a display case key once, and it actually had a barrel lock with 3 or 4 tumblers in it. That's a lot more complicated. But yeah, it's fun. I love a good challenge, and making a brand new key for a lock that you don't know what the pattern is a challenge. So it was cool.
Well, if I have any locks that I like lost the keys to, I'll bring them your way.
There you go. It takes me a ton of time, so I don't know that it's something I want to like go into business doing. I'm right. Certain locksmith. I'm sure a locksmith could do it, you know, quick and easy, but sometimes it's fun to figure it out on your own. I love figuring out how things work, so it was neat. But anyway, let's see how many we got now.
We were at 6.
5. No one said 5, but anyway, Christine and I are just rambling about
the weekend, what we did. And I read a really cool book. Oh, you've got a mug. I don't have a mug. I just have a water glass.
Got my giant Starbucks mug.
Water.
Which is now about empty. It's unfortunate. I have to train my 18-month-old to go get me coffee. So. Yeah, so do you want to introduce the topic today?
Yeah, so we're talking about social media and video conferencing etiquette. And I think it's very relevant to right now because we're basically living on the internet and we're working on the internet, and you'll be doing summer programming on the internet, which like we're not going to go over a summer program right now because we're still working out some of the details. But just know that there is an online component, and you know there's video conferencing, and we need to make sure that everyone knows like what proper etiquette, so we can be as professional as we would be if we were at GCC. Yeah.
Super relevant topic, I think, especially the Zoom etiquette. Like, yes. You hear the funny stories about how people aren't wearing pants and things on their Zoom calls. I'm wearing my pants today, so trying to be professional.
Well, I've got pants on, for sure. I also have.
By no means was I trying to accuse you of not wearing on our Zoom meetings.
They're there's been also like videos of like there was this hairdresser who was trying to teach you how to be able to like trim your hair from home, and she was in her bathroom, but the mirror showed her husband showering, and it's like, oh, so everyone saw everything is what I'm saying.
That's not good. That's not good.
Oh, or there's been like parents or children whose parents have been taking showers and they walk by in a towel and towel falls, and it's like, I know you can't control everything in your environment, first of all, so like understand that. But nudity is a no-no, especially with the internet, because it's forever.
Mhm.
And also, like, depending on the classes or what you're doing, sometimes these are recorded. Like right now, we're recording our Zoom conversation via YouTube. So for someone to walk by, which no one is here right now, and they're not wearing clothes, then that would be recorded. And even if we deleted the video, someone could still get it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's tough for some people. I know, like, children sometimes strip their clothes off for whatever strange reasons. Maybe they spilled something. Maybe they just don't like wearing pants. But little children,
Oh, like toddlers, yeah.
yeah, toddlers will sometimes do that, and so that's not something you want out on the internet.
No, and that has to do more with protecting the child. So
Yeah, absolutely.
it's, I mean, I hate to be like, negative about this, but there are predators out there and
Sure.
people who take photos of children and they'll put them onto unsavory sites that the FBI are trying to shut down.
Right.
So,
Right.
you're not intentionally adding fodder, but it is something to keep in mind. So, like,
Absolutely, it is.
never post pictures of your siblings or of children online without clothes.
Yep.
That's just
Yep.
putting it out there.
Even if it's cute, it's just not something that needs to go on the internet.
Right. So
I know I have little children running around, and sometimes they do that, and
mhm.
I try to be very cognizant of where they are, what they're doing. Of course, I'm constantly sort of watching my children as I'm working from home. Um,
Mhm.
and they're playing on their own, or they're watching something, or they're doing some homework. So it does add an added dimension. And I know some of our students maybe watch a younger sibling. And so for you students, it is important to be aware of what they're doing. And that is difficult, but you gotta try to do your best to pay attention to what you're doing on your Zoom call or your class, but also what's happening in your space.
Mhm. Yeah.
Something else that's, and I sort of I just stepped out of the video to go refill my coffee, and I kind of did that on purpose because um, sometimes that is a piece of etiquette that is not really appropriate. You uh, it's easy to just get up from your computer and go. I left you talking, and I was still listening to you.
Right.
But you were talking to me face to face because you could see me on the screen, and then all of a sudden I'm not there anymore, right? So that's
Mhm.
for etiquette, and that's an example of something I shouldn't have done. So you want, when you're on a Zoom call, just like if you were in a meeting or you were in advisement talking to one of us, you wouldn't just get up and walk away unannounced. You would say, hey, hold on a second, I need to go do this or something. That's
Mhm.
so you need to watch your behaviors there.
Right.
Um,
If you had to leave, say you were in like a larger video and you can't announce that you have to, take care of a little sibling, or you really have to go to the bathroom and you can't hold it any longer, what you can easily do is just stop your video
that's right.
and mute your.
Oh no, Christina's gone.
I'm back. Don't worry.
Now Andy's gone. Oh my gosh, what's
Yeah.
happening in our lives?
So when
That is an important feature to know, because like we're
yeah,
talking about being aware of your surroundings. Let's say you see out of the corner of your eye someone in your household who needs to come through, and all of a sudden they're not wearing pants, or they're not decent for the camera, or you don't know, they're doing their own thing, living their life in their house. You're just there trying to do your work real quick to just jump down there in your toolbar and stop your video quick.
mm-hmm.
Cover your
So this happened to my brother-in-law. I think I told you guys about it. So he was in a very large video conference for work, and I don't even know how many people were in it, probably more than 20. People had their videos off, but someone forgot to turn their sound off, and so they heard a large flush.
Oh.
So, they didn't want to miss the meeting, but and not that I recommend bringing your electronics into the bathroom. It's probably not sanitary.
No,
But
it's not.
if you are going to, please turn off the microphone.
And video, please. Yeah.
And video first of all, but
Right.
the microphone. So oftentimes when you are like let's say we're going to host a workshop, we might mute you guys just in general, because that can like prevent feedback. So it's not just because of embarrassing moments either, but if there were more than just the two of us, sometimes if you noticed in like larger calls, like I might mute myself or I might mute you guys. And it's not because I don't think what you have to say is important, but you're usually just sitting there and I can hear like screechy sounds, and it's very unpleasant. And I know that other people would hear those screechy sounds.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a one-to-one call. Typically, when you're not talking, you want to mute yourself. I'll give an example, even though we're in a one-to-one call. You talk, Andy.
Yeah, I agree, and I often find myself having to mute myself because there's Sophia the First playing on my TV in the adjacent room, or there is maybe some children fighting or screaming or arguing or who knows what. No one wants that to be part of their call. But if you're on mute, you can still hear what's going on. And then when you're asked to join in, you can unmute and join in.
Yeah, that's what we did on the AEEE call when Kevon was hosting. She had all of us muted, and then she said, whenever each breakout room was supposed to go and talk, she said, unmute yourselves and share what your thoughts are. So,
yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's important to get into the practice of that too. Oh.
Call from Lindsay. So you can't control the background noise.
Cannot control your environment.
Yeah. It's okay. You'll deal with that. But that's a good spontaneous example of, not being able to control the background noise in your environment. And that's totally okay. Sometimes you just have to mute yourself quickly.
Very true.
Mm-hmm.
I did okay with that, right?
Yes, very good. And I want to add, we know that when it comes to when you're doing advising sessions with us, and you have a dog barking and you get embarrassed, if it's just me and Andy, we're okay. This is more talking about if there's larger groups, or you just have to know your audience. So if it's a friend you're talking to, or if they don't care about your dog barking, that's okay. If you're in a workshop or a webinar, definitely mute yourself, because it interrupts the experience for the other users. So it's just about politeness, and that has a lot to do with sound. When it comes to your background, I know you can't control the environment that you live in because you are minors. So you don't have the ability to get your own apartment yet or buy a house, and that's okay. That's the part of being a kid or a teenager. If you have the ability, you can put a Zoom background on. So that might be a good way to also block some of the background people who walk.
You can, as long as you're not me.
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever
So
reason, it doesn't work.
if I'm in a different room, it works. I'll just show you one of mine. We'll go classic Harry Potter. So obviously it's not working right now because like
you need to have a blank space behind you.
Yeah.
Considered a green screen.
Right. And it also depends on the type of computer or mobile device. I've noticed some of like the higher resolution ones have the ability to like even deal with the backgrounds.
Yep. Yep.
But fun backgrounds are a good way for you to like also show off your personality. So,
absolutely. Absolutely.
So they can work double duty.
I think some backgrounds you could choose may be distracting to what you're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be aware of that as well. And it's good, it's good to show off your personality. And I know Christina has had backgrounds from Disney and Harry Potter and others. But, like if you're in a professional meeting with someone and, among quote unquote friends, your advisors, when you're meeting with us, it's a professional atmosphere, but we're also very personable, and you don't need to worry so much about first impressions. But let's say you were meeting with a college admissions counselor.
Yes.
Wanted to ask some questions, and college admissions are all using Zoom or similar type video conferencing right now to connect with prospective students. And so maybe your fun Tiger King background is not the one then, right? So it would be fairly appropriate to use a Disney or a Hogwarts background. That's okay. Something that's pretty generic. But something that's polarizing like Tiger King, or maybe straight up inappropriate like Tiger King would be, even if your parents are allowing you to watch it, just stay away from the Tiger King background.
Could comment to me because of my Tiger King background, but I only did
I'm not specifically calling out Christina here.
I don't.
Like I said, I preface that with, among friends, okay. Yeah. When you're trying to make a first impression, be aware that you're trying to make a first impression. So.
Yes, I would never use that if I was having a professional meeting with other trio professionals, or if I was talking to an admissions team or anyone I didn't know. That is exclusively for friends and for comrades that I want to, get a laugh out of.
Right, right.
It's a very much a know your audience. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But something that's not related to videos per se, but just in general social media, is that you have to keep in mind, like we mentioned, that the internet is forever. And one of my professors currently, she likes to say, don't post anything that you wouldn't want brought up during a trial. And that's totally true, because even if it's a private message to friends, say like this is what's happened with my my sister, who's a school psych. People sue school districts, etc. Her words have never been brought up because she's always very professional. But if you are ever in a lawsuit, or if people have access to these records, they can pull up private conversations, they can pull up deleted information. Basically anything that you post can be retrieved and can be used against you in a court of law.
Yeah, and even if it doesn't get as serious as that, it can impact someone's opinion of you or judgment. And when you're relying on a good image, you want to be aware of what your image is, right? Mm-hmm. All of our students are going to be looking for college acceptances, right? Eventually. And I think this is a good point, time rather, to point out, in addition to your Zoom calls, post on social media, and even your profile pictures. Um, you know, like Christina said, everything on the internet is forever. And you post a funny picture that is inappropriate on your social media account as your profile picture or whatever, that's always there. And so when and if a college admissions counselor, or maybe worse, a prospective employer, is, you know, searching you on social media or searching you on the internet, what are they going to find? You know, and what is that going to tell them about you?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not even just like prospective employers, but it could be a group that you're involved with. So I was part of Greek life in college and I was in a sorority. And if I was ever wearing the letters of my sorority, whether it was in person or online, even if I was of age, 21 plus, and if I had, a drink in my hand, I could not be wearing my letters. And that was because it was misrepresenting the brand of my group, which has also been a philosophy for other volunteer organizations I've been part of. Or I would never go out with my trio shirt and also go to a bar. It's
Right.
be cognizant of the organizations that you belong to and what are their philosophies and what are their values. And if you're doing an activity that goes against those values, even if it's legal, then mix the two.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
and
That's
if you're not of
adulting.
age in doing that, then you get in extra trouble for multiple reasons.
Well, that's true too.
Yeah.
That's true too.
What were you going to say? I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Uh, no, I was just agreeing with you. I wonder, I'm not actually sure of this, but I wonder if um, you could be held accountable in some way for things posted on your social media,
Yes.
things people saw, maybe even a Snapchat. So can you be held accountable for that in maybe student conduct cases in college? You,
100%.
yeah, so you're not going to, maybe you weren't caught in the act of doing something, but someone took a picture of you doing it, and now you're faced with student conduct meeting on your college campus in your residence hall or whatever, because that's the thing. You might not have done something that law, but did you fully read your student code of conduct? Do you fully read your student code of conduct for your high school or for
Probably not.
upward bound? And you better, right?
Yeah.
And you should, those agenda books, those pass books, maybe you call them, that your high school gives out. Usually the front section of that is all your student handbook. It's got all of the codes of appropriate behavior and appropriate actions for you as a student of that school. And maybe when you're doing something on your own time, even if it, you think it's not hurting anyone, but it is inappropriate, and it's inappropriate, and it breaks that code of conduct, you can still be held responsible for that.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't on school grounds.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say colleges have an even more extensive code of conduct because you're often living on campus. But even if something happens off campus, you are still a representative of that school, of that organization. And you can still get in trouble with the college and have a code of conduct infraction and have to meet with a conduct board and, deal with the repercussions of that. Just a whole seminar about student conduct. So I learned a lot about it.
Yep.
And your wife deals with it all the time.
She sure does.
Mm-hmm.
So, funny story. about my own run-ins with student codes of conduct, and this was relatively innocent. It's actually the only time I ever faced any sort of student conduct meeting. But I did have to meet with the director of residence life for
Oh, wow.
for this incident. It was my very first week at college, and I told this story to some of my students. Have you heard this story before, Christina?
I don't know.
You'd probably remember my first week at Geneseo. By the way, we're going to do a virtual tour of Geneseo, so I can tell you exactly where this happened. Um, so my very first week at Geneseo, I was young and stupid, and I was trying to impress these girls, I think. But it was really, really hot. There was like no reprieve from just how hot it was in August at Geneseo. I was in one of the oldest residence halls, so certainly no air conditioning, very
Yeah.
little breeze through the windows. And so, talking with these girls, we did a little brainstorming and we thought, oh, geez, it would be really cool to put like a little kiddie pool in our room. That's no problem, right? And so I was like, all right, I'm going to make this happen and I'm going to impress these girls. So I rode my bike up to Walmart and I looked for a kiddie pool, figuring I would be able to find one of those tiny little inflatable pools. Well, no, in August, those are all sold out. I'll tell you that. But I was successful in finding a 6-foot pool that had about 18-inch sides, and you had to fill it with water to fill it up. And so I was like, yeah, all right, I'm gonna get this. And I brought it back and I talked to these girls and they said, let's put it in our room. Well, they lived on the 4th floor and they had their beds to either side. You know how a residence hall room is set up. And this swimming pool was like 6 feet in diameter. So it actually went underneath their beds a little bit. And we worked for like 2 hours filling this thing up with our recycling cans, running back and forth from the bathroom. I don't know how much water we had in this thing. It was probably a couple hundred gallons. And it was there and we dipped our feet in it and no one actually got to swim in this pool. But it was nice to have, and we could dip our feet and sit and chat. The next day, so this thing was up for less than 24 hours when there was a knock at the door. I happened to be in the room. I was actually talking to this friend of mine. I was talking to her roommate's mom on the phone because we made friends on opening day. She liked me, and I thought she was a pretty cool mom. So I was talking to her on the phone that she had called, and knocked at the door. This girl's roommate was also on the phone with someone, and being her room, she said, "Come in." And the door was unlocked, and opened the door, and the resident assistant, the RA, is standing there at the door. And her eyes light up, and she says, "What is that?" And it sure was. It was a full little kiddie swimming pool. And like I said, very, sort of innocent, but we were young and didn't take into account like what sort of repercussions that would have had all of that water escaped that kiddie pool into that residence hall, probably destroyed everyone's stuff, the 3 floors below it, probably asbestos. But I don't even want to think about it. But thankfully, it was up for less than 24 hours. We got it down. I had my meeting with the residence life director. She said, "So you're not going to do that again, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm not going to do that again." And she said, "Do you know now how much water you can have in a residence hall room at any one time?" And I said, "No." She says, "Well, you should review the student code of conduct and your residence hall agreement." And I said, "Okay, do you have that?" She gave it to me and I looked and it said 10 gallons of water is what you can have in a residence hall room at any given time.
Yeah, I would have never thought about how much water to have, but I definitely would have been like, I don't think that pool would have worked because of the water damage it could cause.
Yep. Yep. So thankfully, I guess it's got a happy ending. I think there's still pictures. We had some fun with it. We felt like criminals. we did a whiteboard in the hall and took our mug shots, she and I. Uh, and we got our hands slapped and we behaved for the rest of college. Never another conduct meeting for either one of us.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
It is. It is.
Yeah. I'm not going to go into the other stories. I mean, because this was like a lighthearted one and I want to keep the vibe going. But if you do something that's more serious, it's not always a slap on the wrist.
True. They could have kicked me.
Which are basically like things you can't do on campus anymore. Or even like the most extreme option is that you get expelled, which does happen. It doesn't happen as often. It usually goes, from sanctions and then to expulsion. But you don't want to be a repeat offender and get expelled from an institution, because then you'll have a really difficult time trying to get a degree anywhere else.
Right. Yeah, that becomes a part of your student record. And so when you transfer to another college, they'll see what you have done.
Right. And in general, I know Andy's talked a lot about like you have a clean slate when you go to college. And that is true for the most part, except for the fact that you do have a digital record of yourself now and a digital footprint. And I was just reading about this recently. This girl, she did a TikTok video that was like really racist, like bad. Not going to go into it. But she is a senior. She's not going to be able to walk at graduation now at her high school. And people contacted the admissions office of the school that she was going to. And they said, do you really want to have this person at your institution? And I'm pretty sure the offer's been rescinded.
Wow.
So, because like I said, it was really racist.
Sure.
I would hope that none of our students would ever do anything like that. Because in general, I've noticed that they are a very welcoming, affirming group of all different types of people. But you don't want to be in a video with someone who maybe a friend who does that, or you don't want to repost it or like it even, because even if you do that, someone can find it and then contact a college, contact your employer. You really have to be careful.
Right.
Yeah.
Determine what you want to define you. And unfortunately, the online record you have does define you, whether you like and whether it was yours or not. So
yeah, I mean, I talk a lot about like books and nerdy things, but I don't care. I don't really see the harm in that. I don't see that if I run for office, someone's going to be like, well, she liked Harry Potter too much,
Right.
So that was something I kept in mind in high school. I was always like, if I run for office, can this get back to me? If you're not going to run for office, that's okay.
Funny, I was in high school. I'm getting so old, Christina. When I was in high school, there was no social media. So, I do talk to my students about when you go to college, you have a clean slate. You don't have, whatever maybe mistakes you made in high school, or maybe you just couldn't spread your wings and learn yourself and who you are and what you were capable of. College is your opportunity to do that. So I really do feel like it is a blank slate. What you're saying is absolutely true. I felt like when I went to college, I was a blank slate. I made myself who I wanted myself to be, just like you do on your social media. And there's songs or something about it, right? That you're a totally different person online.
Is there? I don't listen to as much top 40.
It might be a country song.
Okay.
Oh, so much cooler online, right?
Oh, okay.
Help me out, guys. Those of you that are tuning in, is it so much cooler online? I think it is.
Maybe.
But that's about using your social media to recreate yourself and who you want to be. and
Mhm.
you've got a picture that doesn't represent yourself, whereas maybe someone completely different. And when you're online, no one would not know the difference. So you can be whoever you want to be. I suppose that's important to keep in mind when there are scary people out there in the world who are creating profiles that are completely fake and no one knows who they are. So, um, anyway, let college be your blank slate for yourself.
Mhm.
And don't put all kinds of things on your social media that are going to come back to haunt you.
Definitely. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, all social media is bad. Well, I use it. I use it all the time. It's just part of my life. I just use it responsibly. I'm able to like connect with really great people in my life from college, from high school, from professional organizations that I may not see because they're not in my immediate vicinity anymore. Also, I've like been able to like elevate my hobbies even because I've joined like groups that have been like involved with like knitting, which I know sounds like very nerdy, but I don't care. There, it was really nice. This woman, she made a bunch of like weaved bookmarks, and she's like, "Hey, I know it's a tough time right now with the pandemic. Okay, I'll see you in a second." So she actually, whoever wanted a weaved bookmark in that group, she said, send me a private message with your address and, I'll send you a bookmark, which is what I did. And I got a bookmark in the mail last week, which was really fun. But I also like knew that she was a reputable person. It wasn't like I was just doing this for a random stranger. I've been in this group for like 2, 3 years now. I've seen her post many times. I've looked at her profile. I know she's like legitimate. My sister's also in the group, so she's also knows that knitter like specifically. She's like a really good person. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. You just have to be very careful online, is what I'm saying. It is a place of really great opportunities, um, but also it's a place that you have to be responsible for your own image and for the safety of yourself and for others. There's a reason why we have like social media agreements where we ask the students and their parents to make sure that like whether or not we can post their image online, and that's because for some families they don't want that, and there's plenty of reasons why they may not, and there's other families who may not care. I know that I'm pretty cognizant of like with my like baby nieces and nephews, I always try to check with my sisters beforehand to see if, they're okay with me posting something about them because it's not my kid. And also, those kids don't really have like the consent yet. So I have to talk to the parents. So, I just try to be responsible that way. Um, but there are some really great communities out there, which I think I've already talked about, like with crafting or gaming. I know a ton of you like play video games and you're like on the live sets. I don't have that, so I don't do that. And it could still be like a great space to find community, especially during difficult times. But like I said, just be responsible, know your audience. Uh, like Becky said, when in doubt, don't. Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, so I think there's maybe a couple more things that we hadn't really talked about yet in that. So we've talked a lot about your personal image, photos, and things you post,
Mm-hmm.
appropriate. Um, I think so you can't control what other people do on your social media account, but you can try to set guidelines, and you can ask your friends and the people that interact with you on social media to avoid using profanity. And of course, we would expect you to all avoid using any sort of profanity on your social media account because it looks bad on you. But you also don't want to be associated with or have people associated with you posting profanity on your social media accounts either.
Mhm.
It just looks bad.
Yeah, I have set guidelines for my friends in high school and college.
Yep.
Most of them are pretty like aware now. So the guidelines aren't even needed because we're all cognizant of it. But
Right.
when I was a bit younger, I'd be like, yeah, if it's something that I don't want to like, if it's profanity, please don't post it on my wall or like send me if you think it's funny, just send me a direct message. It's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it really offends some people.
Mm-hmm.
Some people it doesn't. And if you are one of those people who it doesn't offend, and if, well, we expect all of our students, you don't use that kind of language even with your friends, but if you do, because we're real, you know what happens. So if you do, keep it off the internet.
Mm-hmm.
I know in past advisement classes and things, we talk about email addresses. I think that's another piece of this discussion. You know, make sure your email address is something that is relatively appropriate. Um, it's easy to spell, easy to give someone, but make sure that it's something appropriate. I know sometimes we create email addresses when we're very, very young,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not good to keep recreating email addresses because they don't ever go anywhere. They're always locked into the internet. I remember my sister's when she was young was stupid smart girl 8, I think. You know, silly, relatively innocent, but unnecessary, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're filling out a mortgage application and they happen to have your email, like if they need your email as well, do you really want to be like stupid smart girl 8?
Right, right. So,
I
any
think
other any other manners or etiquette things you can think of that apply here? I'll plug thank you notes one more time here because that's always a bit of etiquette that's really good. Um, so we're talking about social media. We're talking about Zoom calls. Let's say you have a Zoom meeting for a college admissions officer or financial aid or any professional, I would say, that helps you out in some way. So they've taken time out of their day to help you out and conduct a Zoom meeting or a video conference with you. Is it appropriate to send them a thank you note? Or do you just leave it at that? And um, I would say it is a must. If you're in Upward Bound and you have a video call with someone, send them an email just saying, hey, thank you for your time. Really appreciated the help you provided me and the time you took out of your day to conference with me. That's really good. And I know a lot of seniors are connecting with admissions offices and financial aid offices. And it's important that it comes from you to them, just thanking them for their time.
good advice. Becky also added check your privacy settings.
Mm,
They always change. And then they also usually set them to the most relaxed settings when you first join a social media platform. So if you want your stuff to be tighter, check your privacy settings.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much all I have.
The one last thing I have is uh, like phone and voicemail. So, you know,
Oh yeah.
I know I'm really, really trying to cover all of the virtual communication means here. Um, so phone, voicemail, and then email. When you send an email, there is some etiquette there. Address the person by their name. if you're unsure of how they prefer, what pronouns they want you to use, call them by their name. Sometimes it can offend people to say Mr. or Mrs. And you don't need to do that. You can say their name. That's appropriate, first and last.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to show respect and you know it's a Mr. or a Mrs., I know I tell the students, or I give this example of my wife all the time, but apparently being married to me is a lot of work. And so my wife takes great pride in having her MRS, so she Mrs. And when people refer to her as a Miss or Ms. in a joking way, pretends to take offense to that because she puts so much work into being a Mrs. So when appropriate, use the appropriate salutation, but don't just start into your message. Address the person, your message, and then sign with your name. That's appropriate etiquette.
We had a whole video about this a while ago, so you can watch it if you need a refresher on email etiquette.
Absolutely.
And as I mentioned in that one, please set up your voicemail. And yeah, it's easier if you can, and also put your, if you're calling someone and leaving a voicemail, put your phone number in, because if they're using a landline, then they don't have access to your phone number on their screen. So,
and don't have things playing in the background. Try to have an isolated area when you're setting up that voice message.
mm-hmm.
I mean, there's nothing worse than hearing background noise and music blaring while you're listening to someone's voicemail message.
Yeah, I'm glad the ringbacks are no longer really a thing, which I think all of our students might be too young, but I'd hear a lot of like T-Pain and as I was like trying to call my friends, and I'd be like, annoying.
Agreed.
We should wrap up though. We have 5 minutes until advising at 11 with Warsaw, and then we have 2 p.m. advising with our seniors. So make sure that you contact us and try to chat with us this week, okay?
Absolutely. All right, guys, be sure to tune in tomorrow for our virtual tour Tuesdays. Tomorrow will be SUNY Geneseo. And there'll be 3 of us on tomorrow doing that tour because your wonderful Upward Bound staff has 3 Geneseo alums.
I'm going to wear Geneseo swag tomorrow. So.
Oh, for sure.
All right. See you tomorrow.
Thanks a lot, Christina. Today. Have a great day, guys.